السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وبعد. So tonight inshallah we're going to continue with the Mutawatir Hadith, and we're going to start with the third Hadith tonight inshallah. And the third hadith, قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: من رآني في المنام فقد رآني فإن الشيطان لا يتمثل بي. متفق عليه. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, whoever sees me in his sleep, then he indeed has seen me, as Satan or devil cannot imitate me in shape or cannot take my shape. And this is an agreed upon hadith. And when we say agreed upon or متفق عليه, mean that was reported by Bukhari and Muslim. And this hadith was reported on the authority of about 18 of the companions, as counted by Shaykh al-Kittani rahimahullah ta'ala. From those companions, Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, Abu Hurairah, Abu Qatada, Jabir ibn Abdullah, Ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abbas, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhum. As we do with every hadith, we're going to take one of those companions and give a short biography. So Abu Qatada al-Harith ibn Rib'i al-Ansari al-Khazraji. Abu Qatada al-Ansari al-Harith ibn Rib'i al-Ansari al-Khazraji. So he's from Medina, he's from Khazraj, from al-Ansar. And he's the knight of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Faris Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he's known for his kunya, like he's more famous for his kunya, Abu Qatada. He attended the Battle of Uhud and the battles that followed, and died on the year 54 after Hijrah in Medina. So, about this hadith, whoever sees the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his sleep, then he have seen something truth. He have seen it, that he have seen the truth, something that's correct. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made it clear that the shaitan cannot take the image of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is one of the things that were exclusive for the Prophet ﷺ. And this particular thing is also for the other prophets. Like a shaitan cannot shift into one of the prophets, especially the Prophet ﷺ, Muhammad ﷺ. Because when they are alive, otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected their shape, protected their image. Otherwise, like what would prevent the shaitan when to shift in the Prophet's image and tell the Sahaba do this or that, right? Of course it might not be easy for shaitan to shift in general. Like it might be done like times that this were reported during the seerah was like you can count them on one hand, maybe 2 or 3 times. But in concept, like the shaitan would not leave the Prophet ﷺ alone, would not leave this message alone. He would try to interfere by any way, right? But taking the shape or the image of the Prophet ﷺ is not something possible for him. Whether it was during his life ﷺ or after his death. Okay? So seeing the Prophet ﷺ in sleep can be either seeing him in his real shape, in his actual shape, like what the Prophet ﷺ looked like exactly. And no one argues that this is a truthful vision and a correct vision or dream. And it cannot be a manipulation from shaitan. Okay? Then the other way, that when you see the Prophet ﷺ, but not according to his exact description, something is off, something is not totally correct. And the correct opinion for scholars about this case too is that there is still a correct dream, a correct ru'ya. However, it needs some interpretation. Like this, what Imam Nawawi, rahmahullah, Imam Ibn Hajar and others said, this is also a truth, this is also a correct ru'ya, but take care, and that the shaitan cannot take the shape of the Prophet or cannot take a shape and claim that it is the Prophet. Okay? So if something is telling you I'm the Prophet, then it's not the shaitan, certainly. Okay? But in this case, there is this ru'ya needs interpretation. It's not taken at the face value. Like when you see it, if you saw the Prophet in his actual shape and he's telling you this or that, then it doesn't need interpretation. He's telling you do this or do that. If you see him with a different description, then this needs interpretation. They said, for example, if someone sees him sallallahu alaihi wasallam as an old man, then this is a fertile year. This year that's coming now will be a fertile year. We'll get a lot of products from the land, out of the land, and so on. If someone sees the Prophet ﷺ as a young man, then this is a year of war. What is going to happen this year? Okay. So what if someone sees the Prophet ﷺ in his sleep, and the Prophet ﷺ tell him to do something?
Would you understand that when young, if anyone sees young,
this is an example of the interpretation. It's not a must. Like I'm giving you an example. Like if the one sees the Prophet ﷺ other than the actual description, then this needs interpretation. Okay? Like for example, if someone sees that there is something wrong with the Prophet ﷺ, this might indicate that this person has a problem with his own religion. Okay? Like if he saw the Prophet ﷺ with something, a wound, for example, or something like that, then this indicates that there is something wrong with this person's deen. He needs to take care. Okay? So what if the person saw the Prophet ﷺ and then he said, okay, I saw the Prophet ﷺ yesterday and he told me this is, for example, something is haram, like khamr is haram, it's halal for you. We know, we established that seeing the Prophet ﷺ is truth, right? But then we say, okay, take care. The Prophet ﷺ came and it's true, but you are not in a state of full mind. As if, if the Prophet, you're sleeping, you're not accountable. Right? So the problem is with your reception, not what the Prophet ﷺ told you. And then seek an interpretation for this. Right? Do not say, okay, the Prophet ﷺ told me, okay, to kill this person, okay, I'm going to kill him, and I'm just obeying the Prophet ﷺ. No, it doesn't work that way. Now, if something like this happened, know that this needs interpretation. Okay? So what you see the Prophet ﷺ telling you in dream must be controlled by Quran and Sunnah. It's not open, like anyone does anything and say, okay, and says, I saw the Prophet ﷺ telling me that. So how did the Prophet ﷺ actually look like? So there's some hadith in the description of the Prophet, maybe a lot of hadith, and Imam al-Tirmidhi rahmahullah mentioned some of them in Kitab al-Shama'il. But in short, he was average height sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not too tall, not too short, not very white, not very dark. He's actually more like white skinned with reddish tint, like a little bit of red. And his hair was not curly and was not straight. It's like the average, right? He has large hands and feet, like his, limbs were big, and large head, and his bones in general were big. There's not a tiny person or a small person. No, he's well built. And then there was a thin line of hair from his chest down to his navel, like it was not full of hair in his, in his abdomen. No, it was just like a string or just a line of hair. And he had big eyes. His mouth was not small, he was wide. And he had just countable white hairs in his beard and head. So, if you see the Prophet ﷺ as someone from China, someone from Norway, someone from India, someone from Africa, then no, there's a change in the description, then this needs interpretation. Okay, so this is about seeing the Prophet ﷺ in sleep. So what about seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? this happens, and it's also a correct ru'ya. Like the shaitan cannot come and tell you I'm Allah. Okay? But this certainly needs interpretation. Okay? Because you will not see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his actual, in the way how it actually is subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot actually understand that. You cannot, there's not something that we can, perceive or get an idea about. So, when the scholar said, everything that comes to your mind, then this is not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're not going to see him on his actual, how it looks subhanahu wa ta'ala as, or like when people of Jannah will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permit them to see, right? But in your sleep you cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as is. No, this will not happen. So know that this is a dream that needs interpretation. Then hadith number 4. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم شفاعتي يوم القيامة حق فمن لم يؤمن بها لم يكن من أهلها. قال السيوطي في الجامع الصغير بعد الحديث ابن منيع، يعني رواه ابن منيع عن زيد بن أرقم وبضعة عشر من الصحابة. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, my intercession on the day of judgment is true, so whoever doesn't believe in it shall not be from its people, like he will be deprived from it. Imam al-Suyuti rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned this hadith in Kitab al-Jami' al-Saghir and said, after mentioning the hadith, Ibn Mani', like Ibn Mani' reported this on the authority of Zayd ibn Thabit, Zayd ibn Arqam, and more than 13 other companions. This specific hadith, the specific hadith that I mentioned now, has a weak chain of narration. Okay? So there is a problem with this specific text. However, it was reported about Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu from his own words. Like Anas radiallahu anhu said that by an authentic chain of narration. Okay? The other thing, or before we go there, so when one of the companions says something, like some of the words of the companions, what the companions say, I actually can divide them into two categories. Things that are said that they can deduct it. Like when they tell you, okay, this is haram, this is halal, do this or do that. This might be something that he heard of from the Prophet ﷺ, or something he understood. Like we said, that يدخله القياس, something that he can make ijtihad in. Okay? Other things like whoever do this will get rewarded this amount of hasanat, or will get this, reward in Jannah, or whoever does this will be, punished by this or that. This is something that there is no qiyas in it. Like he cannot think about it and deduct it, and So certainly he heard it from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is something of that, like the shafa'a is haqq, and whoever denies it will be deprived from it. There's not something that Anas radiallahu anhu would just can conclude, right? So this is number one. The other point is that the hadith and intercession in general are actually mutawatir thematically, as you mentioned, mutawatir ma'nawi. Like there is a lot of hadith about shafa'a. So if this single hadith or this single chain of narration is not authentic or not that strong, there are many other supporting narrations that the topic of intercession is still something mutawatir. So from those who reported the hadith mentioning intercession, Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, Jabir ibn Abdullah, ibn Abbas, ibn Umar, Ka'b ibn Ujra, Abu Darda, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, and others. And from those who mentioned that actually the hadith is about shafa'a or about intercession are mutawatir, Imam al-Subki, al-Qadi Iyad, Ibn Hajar, Imam al-Sakhawi, Imam ibn Abd al-Barr, Imam ibn Taymiyyah, all those mentioned that the hadith about intercession are actually mutawatir, are actually recurrent. So the person who reported the hadith, and this hadith was also reported about Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, al-Ansari al-Khazraji. He was the servant of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for 10 years. From the time the Prophet ﷺ arrived to Medina from Hijrah till the Prophet's death, alayhi salatu wasalam. When the Prophet ﷺ came to Medina, Anas was 10 years old, and this was when he started helping or serving the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ gave him the kunya of Abu Hamza, like his kunya was Abu Hamza, and this is what the Prophet ﷺ gave, who was one who gave him this Abu Hamza. And the Prophet ﷺ asked Allah for him, for Anas, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes his money and offspring abundant, grant him barakah, and admit him to Jannah. So Anas radiallahu anhu was one from the people who had the most abundance in money and lived for more than 100 years. Like he lived till he died on 93. So 93 plus 10, it was 103 years. And when he was buried, like the day he was buried on, there were more than 120 living people from his offspring, from his children and children's children. And we said that he died on the year 93 in Basra. And there are 2,286 hadiths reported about Anas radiallahu anhu, reported on the authority of Anas radiallahu anhu in the books of Sunnah. So, intercession, and there are many forms of intercession. The first form that is agreed upon between the nations, like between this old ummah, Ahl Sunnah, the Ahl Mubtari'ah, they all agree about this, which is the grand intercession or the Shafa'at al-Uzma, which is exclusive to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is the Maqam al-Mahmud that was mentioned in Surah Al-Isra. ومن الليل فتهجر به نافلة لك عسى أن يبعثك ربك مقاما محمودا. This Maqam al-Mahmud, and during the night wake up and pray, reciting the Quran as an extra offering of your own, so that your Lord may raise you to a high or praised status, al-Maqam al-Mahmud. And this on the day of judgment, when people are gathered facing all the hardness of that day, with the sun within a mile above their heads, and they keep standing for so long. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leave people standing for so long that they wish to be dismissed, even if for the hellfire. Like, let's be dismissed even if we are ending in the hellfire. So after this this long wait and long standing, people start asking the prophets to intercede, just that that reckoning starts. So they go to Adam alayhi salam, then they go to Nuh alayhi salam, then they go to Ibrahim alayhi salam, then they go to Musa alayhi salam, and all of them say, no, nafsi, no, myself, I cannot intercede now. And everyone said that thing that he made a mistake or something like that, till they reach to Isa alayhi salam and said, where are you from? The Prophet from Muhammad alayhi salam, and direct the people to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When they direct the people to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will say, yeah, I'm for it, and go and make sujood under the throne for Allah knows how long. And then after this long sujood, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permits him to ask. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam intercedes that the reckoning starts, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this intercession. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala reported on the authority of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, the people on the day of judgment will fall upon their knees, and every nation will follow their prophet, and they will say, so and so, and intercede, like, oh Noah intercede, oh Musa intercede, and so on. Oh so and so intercede, until the intercession ends at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that will be the day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala awards him the chosen position, or the high position, al-Maqam al-Mahmud. And this, as we mentioned, this is agreed upon between the nation, like Ahl Sunnah, others, they don't dispute that. Then the other forms of intercession, and some of those are actually not exclusive to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Intercession to some of the people to enter Jannah without reckoning, like before there's reckoning, before being asked, or having their deeds weighted, just go to Jannah directly. An intercession for some of those whose good deeds were equal to their bad deeds to be pardoned and just admitted to Jannah directly. An intercession for some of those who deserve to get punished in the hellfire to get pardoned and forgiven and not get punished. An intercession for some people to have their ranks increased. Okay, like they, for example, they were in 5th rank or 7th rank, they go up to 10th, 12th, Allah, like, but just raise their level in Jannah. And also intercession for those who testify that there is no God but Allah, that there is La ilaha illallah, to be released from the hellfire. Like some of the people who testify that there is La ilaha illallah will end up in nar wal a'yadu billah, but they're not there forever. They must come out. And from those, some the Prophet ﷺ intercede for. Anyways, when it comes to intercession, people in general, like all mankind, like people, are three groups, are divided into three groups. One of them, the polyatheists and Christians, and similar, who make or consider the intercession of those whom they glorify, similar to the intercession of the people in this life. Like you say, if we intercede to this idol, if this idol would intercede for us, this Jesus will intercede for us, Mary will intercede for us, and this intercession is acceptable and it cannot be turned down. Right? No, it doesn't work that way. Okay, this is the first group. The second group, Al-Khawarij wal-Mu'tazila, the Kharijites and Mu'tazilites. And those are from Ahlul Bid'ah. They actually denied the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ, especially for those who committed major sins. Like those who committed enormities, they say no, and no intercession, they end up in Jahannam wal-'iyadhu billah. You know, in very, very short. The Khawarij say that whoever does a sin, especially a major sin, is a kafir. Okay? So if he's a kafir, it's just in hellfire, no intercession, nothing, no mercy, that's it. Mu'tazila have a different concept. They said, okay, whoever does a major sin is not a mu'min and is not a kafir. Something in between. This is in dunya. And in akhirah, he's in hellfire forever. And those two are actually Ahlul Bid'ah. This is an innovation. This is not correct. Okay? So those denied the intercession for the Prophet ﷺ, or the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ for the people who did those major sins. Then the third group is Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the people of Sunnah and the group. Right? Sometimes they get translated to mainstream Muslim community, and they admit and believe in the intercession, and they say nobody, even the Prophet ﷺ, would intercede until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permits him to intercede and sets a limit for him. Okay? Like you're allowed to intercede, for example, for 10, for 100, for 1,000, for million. There is a limit you cannot exceed. This is the fourth hadith. The fifth hadith, inshallah, I'm not going to take more. I think my target is like 40-45 minutes, if you don't mind. Okay. Now it's 23 minutes, so inshallah we're going to take this hadith, and if there is time, we'll take the 6 or postpone next time. Anyways, we finished the first chapter of the book. This is the second chapter, Al-Manaqib wal-Rijal, virtues and men. Hadith number 5, قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لو كنت متخذا من أمتي خليلا دون ربي لاتخذت أبا بكر خليلا ولكن أخي وصاحبي. رواه مسلم. So the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, if I were to take or to choose from my nation a bosom friend, a Khalil, apart from my Lord, I would have taken Abu Bakr as a Khalil. Rather, he is my brother and companion. And this was reported by Imam Muslim, rahimahullah ta'ala. This hadith was reported by about 14 of the companions. From them, Aisha bint Abi Bakr radiallahu anha, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, Abdullah ibn Umar, Abu Hurairah, Anas ibn Malik. So we mentioned now 14 of the Sahaba reported the hadith. And the virtues of Abu Bakr are a lot. And we mentioned this before, that he's the first man in this nation after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the first Khalifa. He's the best of this ummah after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we mentioned that there are, ayat from the Quran was related in his praise, and there were some hadith in his praise, and this is one of those hadith. Aisha radiallahu anha, the mother of the believers, al-Mu'mineen, Abdullah Aisha bint Abi Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhuma. She was born, she is the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When you say al-Mu'mineen, the mother of the believers, then she's a wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was born in Islam and migrated to Medina with her parents. And the Prophet ﷺ married her after Khadija radiallahu anha. More than 10 months before migration, like Hijrah was on Rabi' al-Awwal, then 10 months before he married, like they had this, like the contract. Then the wedding was on the second year of Hijrah, after the Battle of Badr. She acquired a lot of knowledge from the Prophet ﷺ, and there are 2,210 hadiths reported on her authority in the books of Sunnah. She was the only virgin that the Prophet ﷺ married, and he never loved another woman as much as he loved her, radiallahu anha, except for Khadija. Imam al-Dhahabi rahmahullah ta'ala mentioned that there is no woman in Islam, Muslim nation, or other nations who is more knowledgeable than her, than Aisha radiallahu anha. He also mentioned that we testify that she is the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this life and in the hereafter. Urwa ibn Zubayr in the here and in the hereafter, like in Jannah. She's the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also in Jannah. Urwa ibn Zubayr, her nephew, like Urwa ibn Zubayr, his mother is Asma. Asma is her sister. So Urwa ibn Zubayr, like her nephew, mentioned that she paid 70,000 in sadaqah while she was sewing her garment, like she didn't buy something new. She was just, I have enough. And she was paying the 70,000 in sadaqah. And Abdul Rahman ibn al-Qasim reported that his father al-Qasim, also her other nephew, so al-Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. So she is his aunt, like his father's sister, right? She's a sister of Muhammad, Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, right? So al-Qasim said that she used to fast all days, like all year, just only break the fast during Eid. Other than that, she's fasting. On the Prophet's death, like at the time of the Prophet, on the Prophet's death sickness, like when the Prophet was sick, the sickness that he died in, he asked his other wives to be treated in her house. Like, okay, I want to stay at Aisha's house and get treated there. And this is where he died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, while resting his head between her chest and neck, like in this place here. And after using a siwak, that she softened for him. She got this siwak from her brother, and she bite it, she make it soft, and gave it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make siwak or brush his teeth. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was buried in her house, right? We mentioned this hadith last time. بين بيتي ومنبري روضة من رياض الجنة. Like between my house and my pulpit is a garden from the gardens of heaven, and this house is her house. She died radiallahu anha on the year 57 after Hijrah, at the age of about 64 or 65. This hadith that we mentioned, لو كنت متخذا خليلا, is a great virtue for Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Al-Khalil, or a bosom friend, is the highest form of love. Okay? And this hadith, like the highest form of love or the highest level of love, is when someone takes someone a Khalil. This hadith indicates that the Prophet ﷺ his heart ﷺ was full with love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a way that there was no other place or no place for anyone else. And we said that khulla is higher than love. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned and admitted that he loved Khadija radiallahu anha, and Aisha radiallahu anha, and Abu Bakr. He mentioned that he loved all those people. But he said, as a Khalil, no. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of the companions, when they report some hadith, said, سمعت خليلي صلى الله عليه وسلم say that, or رأيت خليلي أو قال خليلي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So they refer to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم as their Khalil, which is good from them. It's from the Sahaba. It is good because the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم is actually higher than them, and then they love him this like the most love, the highest degree of love. So it's acceptable for them. But for him صلى الله عليه وسلم, there is no one that he can love that way, especially that his heart was full of love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this hadith actually indicates that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, each that lived, like he deserved to be the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam Khalil. But the thing is that there was no place for him because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved for Allah. So it's not that Abu Bakr doesn't deserve, no, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam heart was full and there's no place for anyone from the creation. And this, subhanAllah, this is like a short commentary on the hadith. But the main thing is that there's the virtue of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu is something mutawatir. Know your salaf, know the sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, know your ummah. Those like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu made some things, like as you mentioned before, he fought the apostates and he started the war against the Persian Empire and the Roman Empire simultaneously at the same time. From this war that he started against the apostates preserved Islam, right? This other war that he started against Persian Empire and Roman Empire expanded Islam. It was continued by Umar radiallahu anhu, then by Uthman radiallahu anhu. But now the start, he broke those empires for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to expand this religion. And imagine now, like Sham today, Iraq, this all some of his hasanat, Muslim people in those areas. Okay, so the sixth hadith, قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من كنت مولاه فعلي مولاه رواه الترمذي. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, whoever I am his mawla, then Ali is his mawla. And this is reported by Imam al-Tirmidhi. I couldn't find a word that would, to translate mawla to like in a complete way, that it would be an exact meaning. And even in the translation, they translated it that way, whoever I am his mawla. So we're going to mention what the meaning of mawla now. Shaykh al-Kittani rahimahullah ta'ala counted 25 companions to report this hadith. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned that 30 of the companions heard that from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and testified with this, that they heard it when Ali radiallahu anhu was challenged during his time as a Khalifa. Like things were not easy for Ali radiallahu anhu during his Khalifa. There was some challenges and some friction and some objections. So those 30 Sahaba reported that, said, no, we heard the Prophet ﷺ saying that as a virtue for Ali radiallahu anhu. Imam al-Munawi, Imam al-Zarqani also declared that this is a recurrent hadith. From those 30 companions who reported the hadith, Zayd ibn al-Arqam, Ali radiallahu anhu himself, Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, Talha ibn Ubaidillah, Ibn Umar, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and we said 30. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, Abu al-Hasan, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ibn Abdul Muttalib, he's the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib, Ali ibn Abi Talib ibn Abdul Muttalib, right? He was the fourth Khalifa and one of the 10 promised Jannah, and the Prophet's cousin sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his son-in-law, because who was his wife? Fatima radiallahu anha, the Prophet's daughter whom he loved dearly, right? And Ali radiallahu anhu was a courageous hero, an articulate speaker, the Khatib, and he was a great scholar and judge. Like imagine Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu sometimes say, would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a case or a problem that Ali is not there for it. Imagine from how competent he was when it came to judgment and so on. He was the first person to embrace Islam after Khadija as a child. Like I said, the first man was Abu Bakr, but the first child was Ali radiallahu anhu. And he became a Khalifa after Uthman radiallahu anhu was killed on 35 after Hijrah. And he resided in Kufa, Iraq, and made it his capital till he was assassinated on the year 40 after Hijrah, when Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim Qabbahullah al-Khariji hit him with a sword on his way to Fajr prayer. Like Ali radiallahu anhu was going to Fajr prayer, Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim just hit him with the sword in his face and killed him. So imagine this is, and subhanAllah, this guy, this Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim was a Khariji. Remember, we just mentioned them now. Imagine those Khawarij, disobeyed Ali radiallahu anhu and denounced him and the other Sahaba and actually considered them kafirs. Because what did you go for arbitration? And it didn't matter how much they, Ali and other Sahaba tried to explain for them. They explained for them. Abdullah ibn Abbas explained for them. And a lot of people actually repented from when he explained for them. But some of them no. And this is how dangerous it is to just, depend on your own understanding. And just say, okay, I don't need anyone to teach me. I can understand well. No, you can't. Right? So those guys were very self-confident that they did takfir to Sahaba radiallahu anhu and killed Ali radiallahu anhu. Imagine. Can you imagine that one? And someone before him, and those who killed Uthman radiallahu anhu before him. And this is why an important thing, that this deen is chained. There is a link between us and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So don't try to figure it out by yourself. Don't reinvent the wheel. It's known, it's there, it's recorded. It's actually a continuous chain between us and the Prophet ﷺ. It's the top, highest link, and then the Sahaba, then Tabi'in, then the scholars, after scholars, till it reached to us. Anyways, the word mawla is used for many meanings. In Arabic, it has many meanings and opposites at the same time. Like it comes as Lord, as Sayyid, as Master, as an in-law, as a giver or donor, and the person who took, and as a liberator, and as a slave, and as a slave who was freed, and as a porter. So a lot of meanings for the same word. But if you see it at the end, it indicates a higher rank and lower rank. The master and the slave. They can both be called mawla. The Lord and and someone who's that something good was happening to him. Okay, so anyway, so those are all meanings that are acceptable for this word. So we need to find out which meaning is the right or the correct meaning in this hadith. So basically,
we can't say mawla means
friend, like an ally. Yeah, there's also a meaning. Okay. So as I'm saying, there's a lot of meaning for it. The word can be used in many meanings, and it's basically known from the context. Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala said that in this hadith, it is the support and loyalty or allegiance of Islam. Okay? Like Muslim to Muslim. Muslim is an ally for the Muslim, right? They support each other. They are loyal to each other. And this is the meaning of mawla here. And Umar radiallahu anhu told Ali, you became the mawla of every believer, meaning that you are an ally for every believer, right? Shia from Ahlha said mawla is the person who takes control. Okay, we said it comes as a lord or sayyid or something, and said that this hadith means that Ali radiallahu anhu deserves to take control of what the Prophet ﷺ took control of, including the affairs or things related to the believers. So he should be the Khalifa after the Prophet ﷺ. Okay? Imam al-Tibi rahimahullah said, this is not correct. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, whomever I am his mawla, then Ali is his mawla, right? This includes the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this was not happening. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took control of the affairs of the believers, and he didn't assign this to anyone else. It was only him, right? So which indicates that this meaning is not meant by this hadith. So in this hadith it's meant love, Islamic alliance, similar meanings. So in short, this hadith is basically a praise and a virtue for Ali radiallahu anhu. And the meaning is something around whoever considers me a mawla, considers the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam a mawla, loves the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is an ally for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, supports the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the Prophet's side sallallahu alaihi wasallam, etc., etc., then Ali radiallahu anhu will take him as a mawla. In the same meaning, Ali will support him, Ali will love him, Ali will be his ally, and also should take Ali radiallahu anhu the same meaning, should consider Ali radiallahu anhu, also should love Ali and make him his ally and support him and be on his side, right? Also, whoever loves me, or whoever I love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then Ali would love, and whoever would love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then they should love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Should love whoever loved the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam should love Ali radiallahu anhu. Imam al-Bayhaqi radiallahu anhu ta'ala mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he sent Ali radiallahu anhu to Yemen as a ruler or a governor, people start complaining about him, and some people actually didn't like him and showed that we don't like them. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to show them his value. No, I'm not sending you anyone. I'm sending you someone who is a close ally to me, someone whom I love, whom I have, I value. Know this, and you too should love him and value him and support him and be on his side. So the Prophet ﷺ said that to teach people, no, love Ali radiallahu anhu, be on his side, support him, do not, object to him, or do not, challenge him. No, actually be on his side. And abandon his enmity. Do not take him as an enemy. Ali radiallahu anhu said, and it was reported by Imam Muslim, by who split up the seed and created the living, وَالَّذِي فَرَقَ الْحَبَّ وَبَرَأَ النَّسَمَ. It is the covenant of the illiterate prophet, إِنَّهُ الْعَهْدِ النَّبِيِّ الْأُمِّيِّ إِلَيْهِ. It is the covenant of the illiterate prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to me, that only a believer loves me and no one hates me except a hypocrite. So it is the value of Ali radiallahu anhu. Know it, right? So subhanallah, Ali radiallahu anhu, two people got astray when it came to him. Two kinds of people. We mentioned the Rawafid or the Shia actually put him more than his rank. Like there are some, sects of Rawafid will have some beliefs in Ali radiallahu anhu, maybe close to what Christians, think about Jesus. Some of the extremists, like the far extreme, said that Jibreel alayhi salam just take the message to the wrong person. You should have took it to Ali, but you went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam instead. Okay, and there are less extreme, like they go, there's the farthest thing, and comes back less, and to the middle, the slightest way of tashayyu, when they say, okay, Abu Bakr and Umar were actual right Khalifas, but it was not them. Ali should came before. Ali should have come before, and Ali is better than them. Well, this is the least degree of tashayyu, and of course, it's not acceptable. We know that Abu Bakr radhiallahu anhu is better than Ali, Umar radhiallahu anhu is better than Ali, and for the majority of scholars, Uthman radhiallahu anhu is better than Ali. On the other hand, people hated him, fought him, and this happened in Sham during the time of Bani Umayyah, that they would just, insult him on the minbar after Jum'ah. They say the khutbah, when the Imam says the khutbah and start, making dua, radiyallahu an Amir al-Mu'minin, so and so, and they make dua against Ali radiyallahu anhu. Till Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah ta'ala stopped this. And And subhanAllah, this is why you always hear the Khatib says, or a lot of times you hear the Khatib say after making dua, إن الله أمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. This was by Umar radiallahu anhu, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. He said, no, stop this. Ali is is one of the great companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So stop this. Of course, Bani Umayyah had some, for some reason they didn't, there was this split in the Ummah, and this, war that happened between Ali radiallahu anhu and Muawiyah and so on. This sad story. So this was left over from that time. So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz radiallahu anhu stopped that, and subhanAllah, it continued till today. SubhanAllah, of course, not all Bani Umayyah was bad, and especially Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. He was one of the Sahaba too, right? But when we say who was correct, like whose position was the stronger and more right, it was Ali radiallahu anhu, certainly. Okay, so this for the 6th hadith. Next time, inshallah, we're going to mention the 7th hadith, and there's 46 minutes, so inshallah this is enough. Any questions?
What you read in Arabic last, in khutbah, what do you say?
Yeah, in Allah amru bil
What's the
adl.
meaning of that?
I don't have it written now, and it's not easy for me to translate, but that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders
So
you
it
to be.
was like what,
Yeah, it's the end of Surah An-Nahl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hazrat Umar, Rasulullah Ta'ala,
Umar ibn Abdul Aziz.
Umar bin Abdul Aziz.
Yeah.
He started it.
He started, to stop people from insulting Ali radiallahu anhu. Said, no, do not do that. Right? Like, as I told you, those Nawasib, there was this sect who were called Nawasib, and were basically in Sham, who were taking Ali as an enemy. Just the opposite of the Shia, right? Like, every action, there's a reaction for it. So the opposite. Like Shia went that way, the Nawasib went to the other way. I wouldn't accept anyone saying anything good about Ali radiallahu anhu. Still this Umar ibn Abdul Aziz radiallahu anhu, rahmahullah ta'ala, did that. Umar ibn Aziz radiallahu anhu was one of the most respected and one of the best Khalifas that came to this after the righteous Khalifa. Like some people count him at the 5th righteous Khalifa or 6th, because Hassan radiallahu anhu came after Ali radiallahu anhu, and said that between Ali and Hassan, and they were all kings till Umar ibn Abdul Aziz came, and he was a righteous Khalifa. He just ruled for 2 years and a little bit, and he did great deeds. He stopped the injustice in all the nations. Like, he has a very, very good biography. Like, imagine, till today, there's a bridge in Spain, okay, and they call it the Roman bridge. Sometimes they call it the Arab bridge, and this bridge was built by his order. There was some like broken bridge and so on, and he actually renewed it and improved it and make it, and it's still being used till today in Spain, Andalus. So rahimahullah ta'ala radiallahu anhu. Okay, any questions? جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا والحمد لله رب العالمين.